Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So is it just me, or is it a bit sweeter when we have a 2-A victory and the people who are trying to push the gun control start crying about it? I don't know. For me, it gives me a little bit of satisfaction. But we have a pretty big win, a victory in Oregon over Oregon's Measure 114. This is that massive gun control package that Oregon voters put through just last year. So let's talk about what's going on. Okay, so if you didn't know, last year Oregon voters passed by a very slim margin Measure 114. Two notable parts about Measure 114 would be the magazine capacity ban. So you wouldn't be able to get anything that could hold more than 10 rounds in the state of Oregon. That goes for all magazines across the board. They also had a permit to purchase requirement. That requirement basically said that you had to undergo this strict background check. You had to do training and spend this time and money and effort just to get a permit so that you could practice your Second Amendment rights. Clearly, all of it's unconstitutional, but that was again passed by a slim majority of voters in the state of Oregon. Afterwards, it was just a complete nightmare. The sheriffs around the different counties said, hey, we're not ready, we don't have the money, we don't have the manpower, we're not able to implement this, and so forth. There was a lot of problems. Lawsuits were filed pretty much immediately, and thankfully a judge put an injunction on the enforcement of Measure 114, which basically left 114 in limbo. Well, obviously the Attorney General of the state of Oregon didn't like that very much, neither did the gun control groups in that state, so they appealed it up to the Oregon Supreme Court. Well, what did the Oregon Supreme Court just say? Well, the Oregon Supreme Court basically told the Attorney General and those gun control groups to pound sand, and they left the injunction in place, meaning that Measure 114 right now is, again, not going to be enforced. We know that we are going to win this on constitutional grounds. We have the Bruin decision now that we can lean on. They have to prove that there's some type of historical analog, and there's no historical analog for this in the past. You might be thinking to yourself, well, magazines like this didn't exist in the past, right? They didn't have that. People are always thinking about flintlocks and stuff. Well, no, that's not actually the case. If you go back hundreds of years, there was 100-round drum magazines. When you talk about the Gatling gun, for instance, that had a 100-round drum magazine that could be attached to the top. And guess what? The average person could have one of those. If you had the money, you had the resources, and you could actually afford it, you could get yourself one. And that had a big old magazine on it. There was not the restrictions that they're trying to apply today back in the past, and I think this, Oregon Supreme Court knows it. Not only does it violate the United States Constitution, but it violates Oregon's Constitution as well. Now, we know that the Oregon Attorney General and these gun control groups in Oregon didn't like that very much, and we know that because of these tweets right here. Now, the only thing I really have to say about these tweets is if the Oregon Attorney General actually thinks Measure 114 is constitutional, then maybe she's in the wrong position and she should try something else, because isn't part of being the Attorney General of a state to understand the Constitution of both the state and the federal government? Clearly, she doesn't have that understanding. But just to kind of point out that people in Oregon understand that they like their Second Amendment rights and that they want to preserve them, the number of background checks that were done in Oregon in a short period of time last year and this year after, Measure 114 passed, spiked over 101%. So it doubled. It doubled. The number of background checks doubled in just a short period of time in Oregon. So people are out there, they're getting what they need to get, but keep in mind, again, I do believe we're going to win here. That's just my opinion, I know, but I don't think that this is going to stand. So we'll see what happens, but for now, the injunction stays in place. Good job for the Oregon Supreme Court to see exactly what's going on here and not to bow to the state attorney general. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. That's a pretty good 2-A victory, and I want to thank you guys for watching. You all have a great day and a great weekend if you're watching this on Friday. Take care.